just here to edify and love one another. I'm so glad that I ran into all of you, because it really was a life-changing experience for me. I mean, shalom all the way on Shabbat now. It's not like before. It is the way. It is definitely Yahushua's way, for sure. Yeah.
Go ahead, Mario. Let's hear it. Unmute your mic, Mario.
I heard it in the spirit.
I'm so blessed to have spent time with Jose, and we were at the feast, and man, he makes a good salmon egg breakfast. Wow! I was like, wow, this is good, brother. You know, he just hands me a plate and says, I got extra, and I made you some. I'm like, oh man, that was really good. But that's not why I love you. I love you because I love you.
I love you too, brother. I had a great time. What a wonderful time. That was Passover. Yeah.
You've been to Passover and Sukkot and so just love that. Let's see, who was it? It was, I believe, Tim and
I think it was Catherine and then Tim.
Oh, thank you.
Catherine's been up for a while.
Catherine. I should have wrote it down like my wife. Good at that.
I had a calendar question. Someone in the group said that you don't observe atonement anymore, and I wondered why you don't observe atonement, because all of his feasts are meaningful to him. So I wondered if that's everyone that does not observe atonement, and why.
Can I take that? And then anybody else wants to add to that, they can. On behalf of Towards the Tribes, we do observe atonement, and we observe Yom Teruah. But we recognize that those are fulfilled feasts already, but there's also a shadow of them happening again, the final trump, right? And the return of Mashiach and all of that. But with that being said, our high priest sits at the right hand of the Father. So we no longer, like under the administration of Aaron, have to wait for this one day where our high priest goes into the Holy of Holies and presents the blood on the altar, and hopefully he lives through it because he made atonement for himself and his family first. And then he goes in for all Israel, and they supposedly put a rope around his ankle, so if he died in there, they could drag his butt out of there. Our Mashiach is seated down at the right hand of Yahuwah. We don't have to do. He presented his blood once and for all time, forever and ever. You know, so we no longer celebrate it in the same mindset that they did before the death, burial, and resurrection of Yahusha. The second reason is that it's not in the blood ratified in the blood ratified hogs or feasts in Exodus 23. These are the times of the year. These are the feasts are in Exodus 23. It's also not in Ezekiel. Neither of those feast days are in Ezekiel either. So those feasts are fulfilled. So there's a progressive forward movement. And so we are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood. What makes that possible, what makes our generation different, is the death, blood, or the death, burial, and resurrection of Yahusha. So now we are a chosen generation. Whereas before, under the law, you had to be a Levite to be a priest. First of all, not all Levites were priests, but you had to be a Levite to be a priest, and you had to be of the house of Aaron to be a high priest. So where there's a new high priest, there's a change of the administration of the law, and that changes. You don't have to be a Levite. We can all enter in to the priesthood, and so it's a finished work in Yahusha. That doesn't mean that we don't observe it, like we don't acknowledge that. Man, think about what Yahusha did when he rose and presented his own blood. Think about that. Listen for that final trumpet, in the book of Revelations. But Yom Teruah is no longer about for the next 10 days, let me cry over spilt milk so that I can do nothing with and remember all the stuff that I have to do. And Yahusha has forgiven us for that. You're a new creature in Mashiach Yahusha. That doesn't mean that we shouldn't, forget where we came from. We're our best efforts are filthy trash, right? Filthy rags.
Matthew, perhaps y'all will give you guys some great answers.
So we should acknowledge, where our background come from, and that He's delivered us from all those things. It should be joyous. There's also people in the group that will, say that Yom Kippur is a fast, and if that's the way that you want to, what's the word that the Scripture uses? That we're to take our bodies.
Afflict ourselves.
Yeah, afflict our souls. If that's how you see affliction to be, then do it. If you see affliction as being what Isaiah says it to be, then do that. If you see affliction to be standing on your head for 24 hours, do that. But do it unto Yahuwah. Whatever you're doing, do it unto Yahuwah in Yahusha. And so we do acknowledge them. We just don't acknowledge them with the same mindset. Even the Passover, we were instructed whenever we do the Passover to remember this day that we came out of Egypt. Yahusha said, whenever you do this Passover, do this in remembrance of what? Egypt? No. He said, do this in remembrance of what?
Me.
Me. Death, burial, and resurrection. And then we have a foot washing after the covenant meal. And that foot washing that Yahusha did, they didn't know what it was for necessarily then. At least one of them didn't. And said, no, you're not going to wash my feet. He said, unless I wash your feet, you can't enter in. You can't know this. So what was it that he needed to know? The first duty of the priest before they went in to do the work of the priest under the administration of Aaron was to what? Wash the feet. Yeah, right there at the brazen altar, that reflection, they would look in there, they'd wash their hands, wash their feet, and then they would get dressed to do the work of the ministry. So it was the entrance, your inauguration in the priesthood was the foot washing kind of thing. So nowadays, it's like, well, so how do you do that? Does one person wash everybody's feet? Or, one year, Matthew put a chair in the water and washed everybody's feet that was there. I mean, that took like forever. We're not going to do that again, but but then, there's different ways, all the men did the men's and the women did the women and the families did the families and all that. But somebody came up with a really good idea recently that I thought was like really neat. You had two chairs up in the and you get a married couple, whoever is married, to start it off. He washes his wife's feet, his wife washes his feet, and then they sit in that chair. And you have a line of men and a line of women. And then the woman that comes up, that woman washes their feet, then they get out of the chair, and that woman sits in the chair. The guy washes the next guy who's in line's feet, and then he gets out of the chair, and so, it goes all the way up to the, they just keep switching seats and, inaugurating the next person. So there's no like hierarchy kind of thing, going on. But then when you share that little bit of, somebody's going to be last, right? Nobody wants to be last unless you know that the last will be first and the first will be last. Then everybody wants to be in the back, so there's some really neat ways of organizing that for groups and stuff. Or you can be by yourself and imagine Yahusha's hand. Your hands are his hands as you wash your feet, and that's very powerful as well. So I said way too much. I'm so sorry, man. Mario, put on it. So I hope that answered your question. I'm sure it did. We do on behalf of the tribes. I can't speak for everyone in the group, but we do acknowledge them. We just acknowledge them differently. Did that answer it, Catherine?
Sort of. I don't think it's completely fulfilled, as you say. There is a final fulfillment because trumpets has not been fulfilled yet. Can you still hear me?
Yes, yeah. That's why I said so it's been fulfilled, but there's a future still yet to come. And so in that respect, our mindset, though, is different. The mindset that came from the Levitical priesthood was different. It wasn't about our future. It was about what they were doing right then. It was about making atonement for them with blood. So it was different for them. It's still the same for Jews, and I like how Jason that put in there also the Messianic Jews, same kind of mindset. There needs to be a change of mindset.
Yeah, so, as we're supposed to follow Christ, and the way that I used to look at atonement was it was all about me. It was all about making my mind correct and afflicting my soul and so on. But really what Christ's example was service.
Yeah.
He was serving others. And this is really, as priests, this is what we should be thinking about, is not ourselves as much as serving others. And so I think atonement does have a different meaning when you come into the priesthood.
Yeah, and
so
what
thank you.
Yeah, and what you said too is a daily thing. That's daily. That mindset, that crushing of the man, and letting the spirit raise up, and those kinds of things. That's a daily struggle for people, for all of us. I think, and so daily. So we don't have to do it just once a day. We do it every day. When he said fulfilled it, he meant like take it to the next level.
Yeah. And the same with Passover. The same exists with Passover because yes, it's been fulfilled, but his role in that was also as the servant. So these are the examples that we need to follow if we're going to follow in his footsteps. So thanks. I'm glad you're still observing it. That did concern me a little bit. So thank you.
And there are two series that Torch of the Tribe did that I highly recommend for everybody. And you can recommend these for your friends and people that you love and care about. That one is called Clearing Up Covenant Confusion. What is a covenant? It's super huge. Clearing Up Covenant Confusion. And the other one is the One New Man series from Sukkot. What year was that? Sukkot. Is that 216? You got it?
218. No. 217. It was 217.
It's called One New Man. There's 4 parts to it, but it's about crucifying the flesh. It's about being, tripart beings and how we do that. And I probably listened to that teaching, One New Man. I don't know, 20 times, probably. I get something out of it every single time. But we had, thank you, Catherine, and thank you for that question, and thank you for bringing it out. So if you hear that, if you could put that rumor to rest, that would be great, because I've heard that too. T4, they don't celebrate, that's not true. So I think it was it? I don't know who's next. I'm sorry, I didn't write it down. But Brandon has his hand raised.
I was last,
Jesse,
most likely, because I just did it in the last couple seconds.
And Jesse and Damien. So those are the 3 hands that are up. Jesse, Damien, and...
I think it goes Tim, then Danon, then me, then Brandon.
Okay, I'll take that.
Okay, let's have a big fight over who goes next. I was just going to mention that when we run out of things to say, that Lisa has a bunch of questions off of Facebook, and we thought it was a good idea that we could bring up these questions and as a group formulate the answers to help her answer these questions from Facebook, just as a kind of a question and answer format to help each other learn. And I think Stacy might have been in on this too, where we get the questions together. And so if there's a couple more questions, there's Jesse, you have something to say. I see Brandon has something to say, and Danon, and maybe after these three, we could bring up these questions from the Facebook, and we could start answering these questions. That helps everybody to learn. So Danon, I think you were next, then Jesse, then Brandon.
Okay.
Way cool. Hey, thank you, Tim. And I'll make it really quick because I'm excited about what Lisa's going to bring up here. I see these questions. There's two things, actually. I believe that it was several years ago that it came to me and others that we just weren't keeping the feast correctly. We had just discovered the calendar. That put us into first fruits. First fruits was like open game. We didn't have it. We didn't understand it. We weren't keeping it correctly. We didn't even know the count. Some of us did, but there was a controversy. Well, I believe that we are the repairers of the breach. Okay? We're the ones who popped the code. And 2 years ago, Charlene and Matthew Nolan got together and they saw Joshua, and Nolan changed the calendar, and he saw it, and he saw the count for first fruits, and he did a wonderful teaching on it, showing you the Masoretic text and the Tanakh and the Septuagint, and using the words properly, and how to count the Omer. Boom! The Heavenly Father gave us the light to decode first fruits. Now, we're not keeping Pentecost right. We get together at 2 o'clock in the afternoon to have a potluck, and I'm not condemning it, and I think it's great that we keep it, but why meet at 2 in the afternoon? The disciples met 3 days before, and they were writing their faults down. They were having a Joel 2 experience, which we have not had yet. So the Sabbath more fully is coming down the pike, folks. We don't have Pentecost down. Now, that's just my opinion, and I'm staying in my measure. And I will not debate with you on it, because there's a lot of people that see that, besides me. Concerning atonement, atonement's another one, and it's such a touchy subject. And I don't believe we're rightly dividing the Torah correctly. I believe that it's not a celebration. I believe that we are to afflict our souls, and tabernacles is the celebration. So there's a lot of digging to do, and there's a lot of discovering to do, and as a team, we take the same Bible study tool belt that we use in Calendar Club, and we go after Pentecost, and we go after the Day of Atonement with proper Bible study methods. And I believe as we grow in fellowship and we love one another, and we get through these knotty problems, that we are going to become Joseph's flame in a whole different understanding. And I've said enough. There you go. That's what I wanted to say. Oh, I got one more. Charlene had me call a guy named John out of state, and he was a newcomer in the group. And Charlene asked me to talk to him, and I had several talks with him. His name is John, you guys. He's brand new. He sees the names. He got on Nolan's website, and he's studying Melchizedek right now, and he's got lots of questions. I talked with this guy. He opened up to me for hours, and he just started bawling on the phone with me, and I just knew the Father put this man in my life. I just knew he did, because the similarities that he's been through and what I've been through, I just connected with this guy. And he's a jewel. His name is John. I forget the name of the state that he's in, but in your prayer time, if you would consider him in your prayers and pray that he would come on Calendar Club and join us. And there you go. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Danon.
you,
Yeah,
Danon.
absolutely. We'll keep him in our prayers for sure. Jesse, you have something for us?
Unfortunately, I've always got something. But no, I just wanted to say you were talking about the foot washing, and you know, when I first came into the fellowship that I'm a part of now down here, the physical group that I go to on Shabbat, the Father just put it upon me. You know, if you don't do this, you have no part with me. And I believe it's something that all men should be willing to do. Now, I understand, you know, there's some guys who are like, don't touch my feet. Don't touch my feet. You know, I get it. But I think it's more of the spiritual aspect of it than the actual physical deed itself. Like with circumcision, you know, it's a physical representation of a spiritual occurrence. The foot washing it was such a blessing for me. And you want to talk about a humbling experience. I've never felt that desire. Like I've done singing in public, I've given speeches in public, and I've done, you know, ridiculous things in public that would normally embarrass a lot of people. But this was a very humbling experience for me because I wasn't even sure what I was doing. I just prayed on it, you know, and I let the Father lead me. And it was such a blessing to myself, more so than the brothers that I was performing the act on. You know, it helps you realize your true place. We're called to be servants first. And we have to serve each other in love and humility and truth. And if we can't do that, you know, how are we going to serve our head? How are we going to serve him if we can't even serve each other? You know, and so that was, you know, that was what I was wanting to talk about. And I can't wait to get hold of you guys' feet. You just wait. They're going to be sparkling clean. You watch what happens.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jesse. That's good. If we just go through the foot washing and just think it's a physical thing, and we don't understand the depth of it psychologically, then we've totally disconnected. We're not connected at all, and we need to reassess our situation and figure it out what the reality of it is. It's not just touching each other's foot and throwing some water on it. It's a heart thing. It really is. We need to know where we stand with Yahuwah.
Yeah, it was a cleansing. Like it's not just, you know, washing with a little water, you know, a little splash here and wiping it down. I actually cleansed the feet. Like I took soap and a clean rag for each set of feet, and I mean I put thought into it and you know, prayed before it began, and it was it's more than just okay, I'm going to do this and get it over with. You know, that's how I came in. That's how it affected me.
Yeah.
You know, I remember going to an all-black church, and it was time to wash the feet. And let me tell you, I enjoyed that with them, because when they got up there, everybody's washing and they're singing, and their hearts were into the song, and it was going. I tell you, man, that was one of the best times that I've had. And it wasn't just it wasn't totally spiritual, but it was physically invigorating at the same time because of the frequency. What else can I say? The frequency. It had Yahuwah's frequency with the song, and everybody was so into it. It was great. It was great. Thank you, Jesse. Brandon, you had something you wanted to say?
Great to hear. Before Brandon says something, Tim, I wanted to acknowledge what Jesse said, and it goes along with what Catherine said. It's we have to love people. That's where it's at, and it's really sad, extremely sad. And I'm on. This might get me a knock across the face, punch in the mouth, or whatever. But I want. We have a lot of people that come from different backgrounds, all kinds of backgrounds. Catholic, Baptist, Lutheran, Pentecostal. The toughest one of all, the Seventh-day Adventism. And I'm going to say the toughest one of all is because Seventh-day Adventism, and Tim, correct me if I'm wrong, has had a spirit of us and them for 1,000 years or more. So it's about correcting everybody else on the planet because they're the ones that have been honoring us out. We're the ones that did this, and we're the ones that did that. And if it wasn't for us, there wouldn't be toast on the planet or any medical hospitals or any life existence at all. We're the ones, and that spirit is difficult to break. It is so hard to break. We're the ones that did this, and we're the ones that did that. And it's what I would say that Abba's the one that did everything. He blinded us in part. He revealed things to us in part. He led us in part. He brought us through different veins of opportunities, whether it was Adventism or Baptist or whatever it was. He used those things for such a time as when he decides to start to let that light out. I know people that have been walking in the feast for 50 years. 50 years. And then there are people here in the group that say, we're the ones that are bringing it back. No, it's been around for a long time. Abba's always had a remnant. Always has he had a remnant. And they all didn't come out of Seventh-day Adventists, And they all aren't part of Club and a Calendar Club. Abba is doing a good work. We're blessed to be part of a group, two people in particular, Tim and Charlene, that Abba has used to take scripture and investigate this stuff. So when we communicate, we're communicating scripture to scripture instead of, religion to religion or custom to custom. Yeah, theory, all kinds of, whack stuff. In scripture to scripture, Abba's revealing things to us in these days that wasn't revealed before. I've been in with Covenant Calendar Club for, we've been doing this, 2 years, I think we've been doing this, right? I've been with Torah to the Tribes for, I think, 6 years now. But I've been doing Daystart for 15 years, So when Matthew was evening and all that didn't say, well, I can't fellowship with you guys. I have to walk out my walk and love, like Catherine said. You need to let Abba do the work in people. And when people say, well, why are you doing that? I can't tell you the number of times, and Tamara's standing right here to say hi. Hi. Hi, dear. We got invited to, I don't know how many times, a Rev Shabbat at this person's house, a Rev Shabbat at that person's house. Will you come to Rev Shabbat over here? And our answer was always, we would love to. We would love to. And we go through they would go through the little ritual, and we would sit there, and they would pray, and we would say, Amen, in Yahushua's name. And we didn't have an issue with them because they don't think like me and try to correct them. And that's the problem with today's movement, with today's media, with today's politics, with what Matthew's been teaching this past week. It's happened. This has happened. And what this has happened, everybody trying to correct everybody else with false, whatever, and some true, some false. You got to have them mixed together or they don't work, right? And that's got to stop. We got to start being more like what Catherine said. Just love each other, work with each other, see where they're at. Find out, are they saying Torah, Ten Commandments, or Torah, the whole Old Testament? Are they, saying Judaism, rabbinic Judaism, Messianicism, same thing. Except one believes in Messiah, one doesn't, but basically the same thing. Thank you, Jason, for putting that reminder in there. But we don't spend time to find out where someone's at. Maybe they don't even know anything about any of the feasts yet, because they just learned that the Sabbath was for them yesterday. Right? And we want to like give them everything that we learned in 15 years or 7 years or 6 years or however long, and give it all to them on one hamburger, just one, here, shove it in their mouth and expect them not to be offended or to walk away. No, we all get it one bite at a time, right? And I'm looking forward to Lisa to sharing some of these things that are on Facebook, because we don't know where those people are. That's the difficult part of media. And I'm sorry if I sound adamant about that. I'm very adamant about that. Hey, Conrad, 1 second. 1 second, Conrad. I want you to speak up. Brandon has his hand raised already, though. Can you wait just 1 second and then jump in?
Okay. I've been having my hand for the past hour.
Oh, you have? I haven't seen your hand up, brother.
For an hour. I have my hands up for an hour.
Well, go ahead then. Go ahead. I don't see your hand from my end, but that's okay.
Two things. Whenever we do a topic about when does the day begins, it would be better for us to say, when does the day called light begin? If you put the word light, Genesis 1:5, that would make it so much better. Because when you say, when does a day called light begins, it's going to make that very much better if you put the word light in. Because many people believe that a day called light begins in the west when the sun sets. Now that's his nonsense. So let us put light in, and I think that would answer that question better. That's one. Number two, this what did you receive my articles, Mario? I sent you 3 articles about the Day of Atonement. Did you receive them?
I did. Yes, okay. Thank you.
Question. Let us ask the CCC group. Did the manna fell on the Day of Atonement? Did the manna in the wilderness fell on the Day of Atonement?
Yes, it did.
Okay. The manna fell on the Day of Atonement?
Yeah.
In the wilderness?
It did, didn't it?
Well, if the question, then that means that if it fell on the, if it fell in the wilderness, that means they didn't fast. They only afflicted their souls, and that's it. If it fell in the wilderness, it means that they did not fast or shut them out. From the word tisam means to fast, and honor in Hebrew means to humble yourself, afflict yourself. There are 2 different words together in the Hebrew. And where the Day of Atonement is mentioned 4 times, it mentioned in Leviticus 16, Leviticus 23, and also it mentioned in Numbers 29. And it didn't say tisam, it just says afflict. So if the manna fell on the Day of Atonement, it means that what? They fasted or afflicted their beings or their souls? No, we have to ask ourselves that question. That's it here for now.
That's actually a pretty good question, a really good question. I don't know the answer to that either. I do not know of solid scriptural proof one way or the other on that.
Yeah. Well, we can easily look up the word afflict, and it doesn't mean fast and not eat, but there is a word that does mean to not eat. Someone's sharing the screen. I don't know who's doing that. Ruth King is sharing the screen.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
That's okay, Ruth. I just can't see everybody now. There we go. Now I can see everybody. The word afflict means something else. It is, and it always has been. It was first mentioned in Genesis 3:15, and it's anah. And it's the idea of looking down to depress, figuratively or transfiguratively, signs by mistake, abase oneself, chastens oneself. But there is a word for fast. But the fasting on the Day of Atonement comes directly from Judaism, does it not?
It is.
To not eat, it comes directly from Judaism.
Yeah, tisam. Tisam means to shut the mouth. I love that etymology. Tisam is different to honor. Tisam means to shut the mouth, no food, no eating. And there is a history regarding the Day of Atonement. I gave you that article. It would be nice to share that article with the CCC members. Whether they agree or not, there is a history that I wrote about it, and I studied it quite a bit for the past 15 years. So,
very good article. And if anybody wants that, just shoot me send me Conrad's article, and I'll be glad to forward it to you. But I think, too, we don't want to get into atonement per se by itself. We want to focus on. I'd like to focus on this project that what Lisa had planned, and how do we interact with other people regarding calendar, even on Dana, I'll be glad to send it to you, and Stacy. Can you write that down? Dana and Stacy / Conrad. Just write it on that paper right there. Or on that. How about that paper right there?
Damon, Conrad, Stacy.
Yeah. And Lisa too. Dana, Stacy. Yeah, Conrad. And then put an arrow to Conrad, and I'll know what it's about. I'm sorry. I see Brandon, Jason, and then after that, why don't we go ahead, if we can, and get to Facebook with Lisa. Brandon?
So I'm looking at the PDF of the calendar right now, and I'm trying to understand the color coordinations on some of them. Like, so Passover is on a Thursday this year. Does that change, or is it always on a Thursday? And then so there's Passover, and then it says there's a first Shabbat, but it's on a Friday. But then the normal Shabbat's obviously on Saturday. I'm just trying to, so I know people are going to have questions when I'm trying to present this to them. So I'm trying to have good, I hate to say ammunition, but I can't think of another word. But you get what I'm saying.
Woohoo! Good question. Good questions.
The Passover can land on any day of the week. It just depends on the year. The first Sabbath that you see that's on the 6th cycle or on Friday, that's the first Sabbath of unleavened bread.
Okay.
And then following that comes the 7th day Sabbath. And that changes, depending on what year it is, because the weekly cycle of the 7 days that form the weekly cycle, they operate fully independently within the Shana year, so that the days change back and forth. It's just kind of like your birthday. Your birthday isn't on the same day of the week every year. It changes slightly, and that's the same with the feasts, except for Shavuot. Shavuot is always fixed to the first day after the 7th day Sabbath, which would be Sunday in pagan terms.
Can I throw something in there real quick?
Sure, Danon.
I've been using this daily devotional for quite a while, and I've been writing I've been counting for 3 years. Last year, on this particular day, January 3rd, I wrote up on the top in last year on the 19th day, which today is the 19th day of the 10th month. Today is the 6th cycle, but last year when I wrote this down, it was the 5th cycle, meaning it was Thursday, and it was 289 on the count. Now this year in 2020, that was for 2019. So 2020, today's the 19th day, the 10th month. It is the 6th day, Frigg's Day, Friday. So every year it changes. Last year, Passover was on a Tuesday. This year, last year it was on a Wednesday. The year before that it was on a Tuesday. This year coming up it's going to be on a Thursday, and then the following year after that, I believe it's going to be on a Friday. So I hope that helps you. It does float around, but man, it's right there. It's almost identical every year, but it's the days that change. Tim, did I say that okay?
Yes, you did, Dana, and I appreciate that. It's nice to have your documentation with that. Thank you.
And so with this year it being on Thursday, next year most likely be on Friday, the next year Passover most likely be on Shabbat, the next year on a Sunday, the next year on a Monday, because those dates stay the same, but the days of the Gregorian calendar slide around. They're like slippery. They're slippery. Yeah, they slide around.
And the days and the dates are highly, highly important. And I got to put a plug in for part 4 of Joshua coming up. Yeah. It's going to be interesting big time. Days and dates. We need to pay attention to this. It's coming up.
Yeah, and that first Sabbath, Brandon, that is talking about there is unleavened bread. So the day after Pesach is the first day of unleavened bread.
Okay.
That's the high Sabbath, the one and only high Sabbath of the whole year. It's the only Sabbath in the scriptures that has the name high Sabbath applied to it. Many people want to put high Sabbath to all the rest of the feast days, but it's not that. The first Sabbath, the first annual Sabbath of the year is the one and only high Sabbath. That's the first Sabbath of unleavened bread.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Brandon, did you happen to follow the Enoch calendar before?
The what?
Enoch calendar.
No. I was.
I don't want to get off on it.
No, you're fine.
I'm asking you. Is because on the Enoch calendar, it's the same. It never fluctuates. It's always the same every year on the same cycle or the same day every year. And it was hard for me to overcome that. That's why I was thinking maybe you were asking that question. So never mind with the Enoch rabbit trail.
No, it's fine. I tested 3 calendars. I tested the covenant calendar. I barely tested the lunar calendar. 3 scriptures and that was done. And then the Enoch calendar. And the reason I landed on ours is because Charlene mentioned that there's a Sabbath day's journey. There was 3 days journey once they had Pesach in Mitzrayim to go and make sacrifices, because the bulls and everything, if they would have sacrificed the bulls too close to Egypt, then they actually would have offended the Egyptians and put their lives at risk and everything else. So I was just curious because I know that Matthew in his Melchizedek, the mystery of Melchizedek, he talks about that who was since Caiaphas tore his clothes, who then was able to I think he said the word oversee Pesach that year, and it was obviously Yahusha. So I was just and then of course you have the Christian idea of somehow Friday to Sunday's 3 days. So it's like, wait a minute, like, wow. Yeah. And I thought Common Core was just recently invented, and apparently not.
Common Core. But, another little note for your arsenal, out of the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, let a thing be established. The other witness too was the beheading of the head of the priesthood, which was John the Baptist. So his head that's one witness, and then the tearing of the false priesthood, Caiaphas, that's the other witness. He couldn't officiate that year. So Yahushua officiated. He was the lamb. He was the altar. He was he was all in all. He did it all. So yeah, that beheading is a pretty. It's a sad story to read, but.
How are we doing with those Facebook questions, Mario?
I think we're ready to rock and roll. It looks like all the hands are down. And so, Lisa, how you want to do it? You want to share a screen? And no, I'm sorry, I almost missed you, Jason. My bad. I'm sorry, Jason. Yeah, yeah. Wow. I bet that felt pretty powerful, I'll bet, huh? Yeah. We are this many strong today. Boy, I love that. We are 29 strong today. Wow. Thank you for sharing that. Okay. You ready, Lisa?
Yes. I posted the questions in the chat a while ago, but if you want, I could share my screen.
That'd be great. That'd be good too.
If I could figure out how.
That little green suitcase looking thing.
Yeah. I see.
And then if you share just your Facebook page, you can go to other pages without us.
Do you see that?
It says, yeah, we are. Oh, yeah, I see it.
I cut and pasted them. I could also go on Facebook and show you, but these were some of the questions that were given to me. This first one was actually a post on Facebook by someone, and there were answers. People answered it. It was you, Brandon?
Your mic's off, Brent. There you go.
It was me, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was me.
And people answered you. How did you feel about the answers?
I honestly have been so busy I haven't really had time to really study and test it out. But
they gave you information.
What was your answer?
What was my answer?
Yeah.
Let's see. So one person said, weren't these the Roman guard watches they had turns at each sets of hours to be on duty. Maybe that's why. And then another person actually referenced Judges 19 verses 4 through 10. Another person said to read the book of Daniel. And 1st and 2nd Samuel. And another person referenced Exodus 16, Leviticus 7, and Genesis 1. But what it came from was, I'm just going to give credit to the Spirit because that's the only thing I can think of. I'm not that whatever. But you were talking about earlier, Mario, about 2 to 3 witnesses is what we need, right? And so I was actually listening to is it the Gathering Anointing, about when he's talking about the manifestations of the Ruach HaKodesh, and it just dawned on me, like, well, wait a minute. Peter said these men can't be drunk because it's only the 3rd hour of the day, and if the day started in the evening, it would be 9 o'clock, approximately, of course. If the day started at 6 p.m., it would have been 9 o'clock, and then they could have been drunk with new wine. And then there was a couple other scriptures that I found, within the Gospels, and I'm like, it's so obvious to me that, and I already knew that a day started in the morning, but just to have that, that confirmation, of that Rhema word, I guess, and then that's why I asked the question, is because I was searching for it in my Bible app and in my lexicons and stuff like that, and I couldn't find any references to a 3rd, 6th, or 9th hour in the Tanakh. So that's where it came from.
Okay, yeah. Anybody else? And so you had people reply to that answer. And
Yep.
How did that turn out?
Well, right? Yeah. Yeah, there were many different responses. It was good. Enough there.
I think herein lies some of the challenges. There was a set of words that Tim and Charlene came up with a while back that really touched me in a real positive way, and it said forward progressive movement. Forward progressive movement, and it's sometimes it's kind of hard to get that in your mind. There's a forward progressive movement, yet let's go back to this period and get a reference, because it's not forward. It's not this side of forward progressive, right? But, and there's a lot of people that think that we've done away with the law. Well, we haven't. We've established it. We've done away with the administration of the law that Aaron, possessed. The administration of the law has been done away with, not the law, right? God forbid. So in the administration of the priestly duties, there was a morning, the evening oblation, afternoon, evening oblation. There were a morning, afternoon, and evening time of service, of duties that the priest had to do throughout the day. So you see these different time zones or time periods throughout the day of a duty that needed to be done. But if we notice the order, the first one is done in the evening after sunset. No, the first one is in the morning, right? And the second one in the afternoon, and lastly in the evening. And then throughout the Psalms, it talks about new mercies every morning. And then there are, times that we approach them throughout the day. So it might not have taken on the translation of the word watches, the Greek word watch. Maybe somehow we can go from the polyglot and trace it back to the first mention. I've never done it with that word before. That might be a something, but yeah. So bottom line, this person wanted to know about the hours of the day, and then I guess it would be the admin, Lisa's job, say, okay, Is this a question that really is genuine? Or is this somebody that wants to bring up an argument about day start or something? It could go either way. That's a really big one. Thank you, Lisa. It kind of would be cool to see the Facebook page, but this is cool. This is good. This is working. Yeah.
Yeah, I can bring it up too. This question here is just a question that comes up a lot when people discuss calendar, because I think that a lot of the evening to evening is based on this one. It's held on this one major scripture verse, and we've already addressed it in that when does the day start, and we also have several studies on the calendar, the Covenant calendar website for it as well. But this is one that I think everybody's going to at least come across. Yeah. I don't know, Tim, I'm sure you get it a lot. Go ahead, Tim.
I would really love to hear somebody answer this question here right tonight with just these words that are written in this phrase, and the evening and the morning were the first day. How can you prove from that phrase alone that the day starts at evening? I would really like to hear someone answer that if they can. Not you, Mario. This is someone else on this panel. I would love to hear it, because there is a very specific way to prove that the day starts at dawn with the very first three words.
Yep. All right, even 2 words. Yeah.
And
even the
and Elohim called the light day, and the evening and the morning were the first day called light.
Oh, hey, Conrad, are you able to see the screen?
Yes.
Okay, so Tim's question was, how could you explain it using just this verse? Just this.
Just that phrase, and the evening and the morning were the first day. How can you explain the dawn starts the day with just those few words? And even more specifically, the first 3 words. I can hear silence.
I would have to me it just makes sense, because evening.
Oh, you've been indoctrinated. No.
Yes, I did by Calendar Club. Yes, I'm happy for that. So the evening and the morning is the first day. That's the completion of the whole, right? The first day is a whole, but the evening and the morning, meaning that the evening came first, then the morning. So logically, if the day ends in the morning, logically the day has to start. If it ends in the morning, it has to start in the morning as well. I mean, that is the mixing between the day and the night, the morning. So that's how I would explain it.
That's good, Jose. But what is the characteristic of the word for evening, which is Erev? What is the characteristic of that word that proves that the day starts at dawn?
Sunset.
It's the word Arab.
Mixing.
Oh.
You got the word and.
Mixing.
Or and.
That word Erev, or evening, is a mixture. There must be 2 elements to allow that word to happen. What comes next after that? The morning is between the evening and the morning. Sorry. The night season is between the evening and the morning. So to have a mixture, to have an evening Erev mixture, light must come first by Hebrew definition. Therefore, there is no possibility that the darkness can start the day. Light must come first, and the evening mixture and the morning were the first day.
Yeah. You know, Mark had his hand up. I screwed up. I didn't see it. All I have, guys, by the way, if you're raising your hand, I can't see it. I just get this strip with like 4 in it. So if you raise your hand in this mode, I'm not able to see it. So maybe just go ahead and shout out as it comes to you.
Did you hear me just comment a little bit ago?
Go ahead, do it again, Mark.
do it again.
The key word here says "and the evening," so it's an addition. And the evening. So what was before the evening? That's the big clue right there, and I believe a third grader could pick up on that.
That's good. Yeah.
Right on, Mark.
Okay.
Okay.
I would like to say something on this. Because a lot of people want to cling to these specific words as evidence. All right, so if they want to cling to these specific words, the word "and" is a connecting word, right? It connects two things together. So you've got a full day's worth of work and the evening and the morning were a day. So you can't forget that whole day that happened before that "and." It connects it to that evening, and then it stops at the morning. There's nothing, it doesn't continue on with the next workload. It stops at that morning. Mm-hmm. So that's what I was wanting to say. That word "and," if they choose to say, well, it's in there, so it's got to be important. Well, that word "and" is a connecting word also. Mm-hmm. So if they want to insist on using it as it's written in their KJV or whatever translation they have, then that's it. You've got a work day connected to an evening. No mention of the night. So, are we supposed to think that the night doesn't exist? Because it's not mentioned. So do we think that it doesn't exist, But, and then the morning.
Yeah,
and the morning completes every single day in Genesis 1. It doesn't say the evening completes a single day. Not one.
So Jesse, I have a question for you.
Oh no, I didn't know.
Or anybody on the panel. That word "morning," that word is boker in Hebrew. What is the definition of the word boker that applies directly to dawn? What is the definition for the word boker?
Daybreak. Daybreak. Mixing morning.
I'm looking for an animal.
Ox.
An ox, yes. And what is the ox doing?
It's pulling the plow.
What does the plow do?
It separates and divides.
So how can you apply a plow to a 24-hour period?
It has to be divided.
So
you can't have a continual hour period.
So you're telling me that boker splits and divides one 24-hour period from the other 24-hour period?
Yes. It sounds like I've been studying with somebody. I don't know. There's a thing there.
Right on.
I'm probably biased on this topic. I don't know. I'm gonna mute myself now.
Thank you. The next one is Psalm 104:19, and they say that this shows that the moon sets the appointed times annually, and that the moon, which is the lesser light in Genesis 1:14-18, and the stars also has something, UL Moedim, as seasons, King James Version truly meaning appointed times.
Oh boy. Who wants to go for it?
We have addressed these two verses though in our studies.
How about the stork? What does the stork do?
Delivers a baby.
Delivers the
So the stork has appointed times also, doesn't it?
Yep.
That's an appointed time.
You know, you just said something huge. I'd like to elaborate on the word moed, because I have to be really careful. Let me say this: that word moed was huge for me in me coming into the idea of Sabbaths and feasts being for me. Okay, it was huge for me. But use that word moed for me. But moed does not mean the feast of Yahuwah. It does not mean that. Moed means fixed time. That's it, fixed time. It could apply to my lunch date tomorrow at noon. I have a moed tomorrow at noon. It can apply to a feast date, but the feasts are chags, not moeds. They're chag. They're not called moed in Scripture. But that's what we refer to them. Oh, see, it says right there, that word isn't seasons like winter, summer, spring, and fall. It's moed. Those are the appointed times and seasons. Well, Abba could use it. He used it for me to bring me into his feast. But it also takes away from knowing the assignments of the moon for the winter, spring, summer, and fall, which it functions perfectly according to its ordinances. It says when the waves come in, when to plant, and the animals, and migrations, and all those kinds of things. It works perfectly. But when it becomes the meaning of our feast, now it takes away from the meaning of that word. I think the choice of the word seasons was actually more accurate than these rewrites that says is appointed times, because or feast days, because it does apply to that as well. There is a time. Passover is on the 14th moed of the first month. It's on that's a time, a fixed time. It doesn't move.
Oh.
Unleavened bread is on the 15th of the month, of the first month. That's a fixed time. It doesn't rotate around the moon or any of those kinds of things. Those are fixed dates of the first month. We know that the first month is also the first day of the year, Shaneh. If you haven't seen that teaching Tim did on the word year, that's like a brainstorm. So if the year start is the beginning of the first day of the month, and the first day of the month is the beginning of the first day of the month, and the word Yerach is nowhere in there, and anywhere in Scripture where it says new moon, it's a fraud, because you look it up and it says Rosh Chodesh, and then Strong's, who was highly into Babylonian Judaism, wrote the word moon in there. But if you click on from the origin, it says lunation has nothing. The word Yerach isn't even attached anywhere in there. But so anywhere where it says new moon, that's a lie. That's an intentional mistranslation in my book. So for that,
yeah, I'm in agreement with you, Mario.
So this question shows the moon sets the appointed time annually. No, that's interpretation. It doesn't say that.
Yeah, in my Samaritan Pentateuch, if you look at the comparison between the Samaritans and the Masoretics, both versions say month. They don't say moon. That was changed later on to support their lunar worship.
So that could have been a good answer, right? Yeah. Or maybe you could answer the question with a question. What Bible are you reading?
Yeah.
But she did put King James there, didn't she? As a Umodim, as season, truly meaning appointed time. Well, yeah, it does mean appointed times for sure. She got that part right. So it's hard to tell which side she's coming from. To me, I guess if I was moderating the page, I would probably just sit back and wait and see what everybody else says, and don't do nothing. Wait for the smoke to clear on that one. I don't know.
Yeah.
But doesn't the moon actually change in cycles? Like sometimes it's a 28.5 day, and other times it's like 29.5 or something like that. So it's not even a reliable source.
The man's synodic lunar cycle, which is 29.5 days, has no foundation whatsoever in any way, shape, or form according to the scriptures. It is a figment of man's imagination if you go by the scriptural outline of a perfect cycle, which is point of origin to point of origin. You'll see that written in Ecclesiastes 1:5. The lunar cycle, the metonic cycle, which is 29.5, the moon does a complete point of origin to point of origin, and then it must travel another, I think it's 2.5 degrees or 2 days to get to its point where they call where full moon to full moon is what they usually measure it as. But that paradigm of a full complete circle plus some degrees does not agree with Yahusha's outline of a complete circle. Yahusha's outline of a complete circle, you read Ecclesiastes 1:5, point of origin to point of origin.
Hey, Tim,
Yes.
which would be the best teachings to address this particular issue in Psalms 104?
You asking for one?
Yeah, the best, I guess. The top 2 or 3, maybe?
Stacy, I'd have to get back to you on that right now. Off my head, I'd have to go through that paper and figure out which is the best one. I'd have to get back to you on that.
Yeah, I think Tim and Colleen have some work to do. Neil is going to try to replicate this site and switch it over, and it'll be in tab section like New Day Begin, New Year Begin. You know, because of the names of the teachings, it's hard to remember which ones covered what. You know, so, but they've got some of this written down as to what that teaching is about. And so I guess you guys are going to use that to help organize that. And then, but that's not for something. That's going to be, that'll be way down the road, I guess.
Yeah, I would say off the top of my head though, the moon one. Is there 3 or 4 to that one?
And
there's 7 to that, and that's
There's
a complete
7?
study. Yeah,
That's a complete study. That definitely hits the lesser light. It talks about the lesser light, and I believe it does also talk about the verses. It definitely hits the verses. I know that because we went through the verses of the differences with the moon and the misplacement of month.
What about that one that shorty that Charlene did? That's on the
Yeah, there was that short one too.
What's the name? I don't remember the name of it.
I don't remember the name of it either.
There's so many studies out there. I can't remember. I can't keep track of them.
Yeah, there is though. There is one other short one about the moon. Sorry. Yeah.
The moon. My answer to this is this: that the moon is never made for the appointed times for the festivals, the Shabbat.
Yeah.
It was made for the seasons of the night. It is made for high tides and low tides, so it will clean the ocean. And the seasons of the night, that the moon was made for agriculture, where farmers can plant their seeds in the night, and sometimes like a full moon, you plant your what you call your root crop, and it produces a bumper harvest. So yes, the moon was made for the seasons or the appointed times of the night, and not for the Father's annual festivals. That's
Well
it.
said, Conrad.
Yep, that was great.
Yeah, that was really well said. Real quickly, just another reminder. I can't see raised hands. So if you're gonna, if you want to comment, as long as you're not, like stepping on somebody while they're talking, just go ahead and unmute your mic and jump in. Okay, because I can't see hands raised in this mode right here.
Mario, can I ask a question real quick regarding this topic?
Yeah, jump in. Yeah.
Okay.
In other words, don't ask me, just jump.
I got you. I just wanted to be respectful.
Thank you.
Yeah. So one of the questions I'm asked sometimes, and of course, like I said, it's in like a trollish kind of fashion, but I still want to be able to answer it, because we should always have an answer, right? That's what 2 Peter 3 says. But so let's say we didn't have any technology at all. How would we, based on our calendar that we follow, be able to know, what day it is and when the feasts are and all that kind of stuff?
That's a really good question, and I think too, Tim, if it's okay with you, as we get closer to the end of the year, like before we get to the 5 days, recalibrating days, we should maybe work on how to visually see that spring equinox. That would be a really good, how to go in your backyard or on your patio, or if you don't have a good way of being in the sun, then find a friend's backyard somewhere where you can use those 5 days to see when spring equinox comes. And then the answer to your other question, and for now, I think Google might be a pretty good resource. Spring equinox for this year is planned, I think we're saying 19. They're usually pretty right on, but I wouldn't trust Google with anything. And you can do this however you like. It's up to you. I hope this might help a little bit, but this is a board that my family uses, and it helps. I don't know if you can see the whole thing. Now that I have it in front of the computer, I can't see you guys.
No, we can only see Lisa's screen right now.
Oh, that's right. Okay. Let's see. Can you switch it up for just a second, Lisa?
Oh, there we go. Okay.
Here, tell you what. No, I can't share my screen. That doesn't work. Okay, so can you see it now? Maybe.
Yep.
No. Okay. So each day, at the end of the day, we change the number on the yearly count. So today is the 289th day of the year, and then when it comes to what day of the month that it is, the last number will always be the same as the last number of the year. So you'll notice it's the 289th day, and today is the 19th, so it ends in 9, right? 19th of the 10th month. Now, the reason that we have that little box there with the 1 in it is that when it's the 30th day, I put an X in that box, okay? And then there'll be a 0 on the outside because there's no 31. Okay, so this shows me that it's the 10th day, and then when it, as I keep counting, when it's the 20th day, I put a 2 in the little box. So it'll say 21, 22, as we count out the days. But I don't know the address exactly that says, teach us to number our days that we might add wisdom to our heart, right? So once we start the yearly, we know when the year is, that's month 1, day 1, and then we just keep counting each night before you go to bed, you make a change, or early in the morning, or however you want to do it, and we just count every day as we go through. So you know what day of the year it is. So when they say Happy New Year, you know what I'm saying? No, it's the 287th or 80th day of the year. You're wrong. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. Well, I don't do that. I could. Because whoever thought of starting the new year in the middle of the night, for one thing, You know, and in the freezing cold for another. I mean, you know. But that's okay.
Yeah.
You want to switch it back to your screen, Lisa?
Hey, mate, Phil. Yo, Mario, remember 3 years ago when we started counting, you and I were all over the board. And it's taken, I think it's taken 3 years to get this counting down. And I wanted to share with the gentleman that was speaking, repetition works really well. I've got a board like Mario does on my refrigerator, and the first thing I do in the morning before I make my coffee is I go to that board and I change the date. Then I have a chalkboard by my front door as I leave the house with the date on it that I change every day. Then I got a little calendar like this that I keep in both vehicles. So 4 times a day, I'm running the calendar through my head. I'm counting. And if I feel insecure, I write it on the palm of my hand. So today I know tomorrow's going to be the 20th day of the 10th month. It's going to be the 7th cycle, and we're going to be on 290 on the count. And it gets easier every year. So jump in, get yourself a calendar, and start counting, bro.
You know, just like, you know, I couldn't think of waking up in the morning and not saying, good morning, Abba. Thank you for waking me up again. You know, new mercies every morning. That's such a habit for me that it's almost not sincere. It's almost not sincere because it just comes out of my mouth. I'm still, you know, groggy and half asleep. But the counting becomes that habitual kind of adding a day every day. And so, yeah, it does get easier. So, Lisa,
yeah.
So, did that post or that question, did it get nasty at any time, or
no, not at all.
That was good.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, it was fine. Yeah, and the answers included, you know, agriculture and not about moed meaning fixed time. That was a great response. Thank you for that. Stacy's taking notes, so she's writing everything down, and you know we're going to use this as a reference. So it's good to bring the questions to the table with everybody because we've all been studying together for so long, and we all have different knowledge, you know, of certain areas. Maybe you know more than others. But, you know, it's hard to grasp. There's so much, I mean, over 2 years of teaching, you know, and there is no short answer. We know that. But doing these little bits here and there is just bringing a better understanding. And like we said, we need at some point to provide at least some sort of an answer to, you know, give a right direction.
So most of these answers come from Covenant Calendar Club members.
Yep.
So if you're not a member of Covenant Calendar Club Facebook page, you could be a huge help just by becoming a member and maybe answering some of the questions of new people that come in there. Yeah,
feel free to jump in.
Yeah, for sure, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Did you want to stay on this one, or do you want to move to the next one?
Yeah, well, yeah, that's fine. The next 3 we can kind of lump together because they're kind of about the same thing. So when is the real start date of the new year? What do we do to look for the first day of the year? And what are the extra days at the end of the year for? So those are like 3 that kind of go together. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I'd like to suggest that building that the thing that shows the equinox shadow, the line. I can't remember what it's called.
Like a sundial?
Kind of, yeah. If we could like get a set of directions.
Yeah, I have the plans to make it out of wood, and it tells you what size to get, and you can take the pattern and you can put it on a piece of wood and you can build it and make it and all that kind of stuff. But if it's wood, well, here in Arizona, it's really hard to keep a piece of wood straight for any long time.
Right. But I'm saying if you could point them in that direction, like if we could have like a page they could pull up where they could see the directions on how to make it for themselves.
Well, let me ask you though, this, Jesse. I'm not trying to be a smarty pantser or anything, but if you were in the wilderness, would you be packing that in your backpack?
No, I'd have to make one.
Yeah, so
like there would have to be a way to make one using the ground and sticks and rocks and.
Yeah. I'll tell you what I find faulty about those is, first of all, it's set on a 45-degree axis. Have you noticed that? Just like the one in Israel, their big thing that's on a 45-degree also. And I don't know how you feel about the Earth, whether the globe is flat or whatever, but why does it need to be on a 45-degree axis pointing to the North Star? And then if I'm in the other hemisphere, I'm not even going to see the North Star. I'm going to see the what do you call a cross? Whatever you call that cross. Anyway.
Southern Cross.
What is it?
The Southern Cross.
Yeah, Southern Cross. There's a couple of people that have some stuff in the chat, but truly the easiest way to do this is to stick a stick in the ground, or to have a nail that you have hammered through a piece of wood and it's just sticking straight up, right? And the smaller the nail, the smaller the shadow that you have to work with. The longer the nail, I got so overdid it. I put a 6-foot post in my backyard. The shadow goes beyond my backyard, so that was like useless because the shadow went too far. But as the day gets closer, maybe we can work on project. You can several different ways of doing it, and it's getting
maybe we could test that out, from different locations.
Yeah.
And just try to figure out which one would work the best, and then offer that as advice depending on which hemisphere you're in. But because the southern hemisphere, like you said, is going to be different than what we're going to be looking for in the northern hemisphere.
Yeah,
and I think that would make a big impact on at least the first question out of the three. What is the real start day of the new year?
I'm not by any means the master of this stuff. I'm just not very smart. So it has to be really simple, or I don't get it. And
hey, Mario, speaking of, let me just ask a question that's related to this, because I want to be able to write this down. I'm so Enoch'd out. That's what's been ingrained in my head, that I know the first day of the year is equal part day, equal part night. Well, where is that? This is going to be one of the questions that obviously is asked. How do we know that is, aside from Enoch, how do we know that that's the first day of the year? I need a reminder here from the Torah.
What's the first day of the year? The spring.
How do we know that? Yeah, where is it in Scripture forgetting Enoch? Because like I said, that's the first thing that comes to my mind is Enoch is who told me that it was equal part day and equal part night. So I'm wondering, where is the Scripture in the Torah that tells us that? So we got to build a little sundial thing and find out when it's there. Why?
Exodus 12:1. In fact, we could go to it real quick if it's okay with Lisa.
Yeah, I would want to pull it up.
Yeah, that'd be great if you would.
Are we talking about the word Takufa, Mario?
Yeah. Or Shanae. Okay. It says, and Yahweh spoke unto Moses and in the land, this month shall be the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you. So we see that the first month of the year and the first day of the month start at the same time. So if we look at the word year, this is where it comes into challenge, because a lot of moon people will say, see there, it says right there, this, the moon. Or they might even go on to read, later, where it says in the month of Aviv, okay, the first month. Aviv doesn't mean month. Aviv means spring. But if you look up the word Aviv, it'll say the green in the ear, or the, whatever, and then they use that to be, supposedly barley. Yeah. Yeah, just jump in.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to
I'm saying jump in because I'm not.
Okay. I looked it up. I've got my MySword pulled up, and it allows me to compare many different scriptural verses at the same time from different Bibles.
Good.
And if you look at the root word for Shana, it's Shana, and that means to repeat, to do again, to change.
Yes.
So it's like it's the cycle. That's the Brown Driver Briggs definition, and the Strong's definition is pretty much the same thing. It means to duplicate. Shana means to duplicate.
Yeah, and so every year there's a new year. It's a new season. It's it's new. The moon it never duplicates. I mean, it's 30 days this day. It's it doesn't even show its face for 4 days next month, and it's it's like it's all over the place because it's working the way that it's supposed to be working, I guess. So that's the beginning of the year and days at the same time, right there when we come out of Egypt in verse 12.
And in a lot of versions of the scriptures, the translations, they read, "This month marks the beginning of months for you, or shall be unto you the beginning of months." But then you get to the version that I like using, and they've changed it. It says, "This new moon is the beginning of new moons for you."
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of weird, that so many other ones would say month, but then there's a few that throw in that the other word, which we know it's not Yeraf.
Yeah, if you can, Lisa, is your eSword up? Is this Lisa's screen? Yeah. Can you pull your go to Exodus?
KJV plus.
Exodus 12, and then
KJV plus.
Wait, okay, where do I put this in?
Oh no,
click on the KJV plus right there.
Oh, gotcha.
Yep, and now you have all the Strong's numbers right there.
Right. And how do I go to Exodus? Where did you want me to go? Exodus what?
On the left is your Bible books. Click on that, so it'll give you a menu.
Yeah. Gotcha.
And then click on that pin, and it'll always be there for you if you want it there.
Oh, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Exodus 3.
No, 12.
Oh, Exodus 12.
1.
So click Exodus and then
12. Yep.
Gotcha.
And then click on that word where it says months or months. They're both the same number. So yeah, double click on that if you would.
Okay. Yeah, it shows you down below.
And then there's a dictionary.
Put some scriptures in the chat, you guys.
Yeah. Okay. So if you pull that down, notice where he wrote in there, Strong's did. It says Kodesh, but there's no word Iraq there. Okay?
Right.
But he put new in parentheses. Mm-hmm. But new is in the text. Yeah. So this month.
Well, it's highlighted. It's italicized. So.
Right.
But moon's not italicized. But see, they stop there and see definition, new moon. Well, go to the from. Click on that from button down there, where it says Kodesh from 23:18. Click on 20, or just Yeah, click on it, and a box will hover up. Yeah, or you can go to the right and click on where it says 2318. But it says right there, primitive root, be new, casualty, to rebuild, renew, repair. It's nothing to do with the word moon. Always when you see that word new moon, it's Rosh, which is a head, Kodesh, which is the nation, or to repair, to rebuild, to actually be, it's a new year, right? That would be new. But, so we've taken these things way out of context and then use those for references, and people have a hard time with that. So when they ask the question in media, it's like, wow, that's a tough thing to answer without sharing. Well, look at your scripture, the word new moon, look it up. It doesn't say new Yerach. It says Rosh Kodesh. They've added the word new in there for the definition, and they added the word moon because it says by implication a month. No, by implication, those guys saw it as a moon. It's a month. Kodesh.
Right. I'd like to add another definition to it. So, if you look at where it says it'll be the first month of the year, the word for first is Rishon, H7223. The Brown Driver Briggs definition means first or primary, former, and it comes from the Hebrew word Risha, meaning beginning time, early time. So it shows you that that's the beginning. That's the first one. No mention of Yerach or any moon or anything like that.
No. Most of the time when they're using their examples, they use a scripture that says new moon, and so they're right from the beginning that they don't know. It's not their fault they don't know. You just don't have eyes to see yet, or maybe they just choose not to because they want to be part of their assembly or their group or culture or whatever, and that's what they believe, and that's good enough for them.
Or they've been indoctrinated to think one way, and they just haven't taken the time to do the research to study it out for themselves.
Yeah, I think understanding when the day begins is super huge. That changes a lot. That makes me want to find out, well, wow, that came, that was like a wow. So what about the year? Maybe that's not the same either. And the word Tekufa, it's in here. Anybody know what word was used for Tekufa? We could see that. Anyway, got the idea, I think. That would be the first reference whoever asked that question. Where does it say? The beginning of the year. But they oftentimes want to tie it into the Aviv, and they look up the word Aviv, and here's where you get your barley sniffers, where I was one of those guys, by the way. Sliver of the moon, and then we check the barley in Jerusalem, and unaware that there's several different types of barley, and they all ripen at different times, and this is, blah, 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 and they worship Israel. So, that's kind of a pull-in for that. It has to be noted in Israel, and it has to be in a certain area, and all that stuff, but I didn't know any of that then. And, but when it said the green in the ear, and they said, well, that refers to barley, I'm like, okay. But the word Aviv, even to this day in Israel, in Tel Aviv means spring mountain or spring hill.
Hey, Mario?
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you, but was it the word you was looking for is the end of age or end of time for Tekufa?
Is it?
Yeah, age? It's in there somewhere, end of time or end of, I can't remember. Age? End of something.
Age. I don't know. I don't have my eSword up right now, but maybe write age. Click on the magnifying glass and write age.
Okay.
Might find it.
This one, right? The binoculars?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
I'm not binocular, sorry.
Yeah, the funny thing about Tel Aviv, I just wanted to bring
And
this.
then, I'm sorry, age right there?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, tel means heap. So every place that the ancient Hebrews, when they first came into the land, when they would destroy a city, they would leave it a heap. And they were told never to rebuild on those.
Huh.
So that was just some information I wanted to share when you mentioned that.
And Uraco was a heap, wasn't it?
Yes, and they rebuilt on top of it. Any city that they have that has the word tel in it was a heap from a city that they had destroyed in the past and was told to never build on top of again.
Lisa just pointed out that this word age has 2 different Hebrew numbers. Mm-hmm. 2 different Hebrew numbers.
And 3-1-1-7.
Okay, that one's Yom.
And then this one.
Oh, another one, 3rd one.
Zakun.
Looks like 3. Yeah, 3.
And that one, I don't know. 240 is.
I believe the key word is "end" for when it comes to Tukufa. Was one of the.
End?
Yes, END.
Oh boy, that would be a long search, wouldn't it? How many times is that word in Scripture?
Yeah.
End of somehow.
Wow.
End of time, you say?
Yeah.
End of age?
End of age? Yeah, put end age there. Yeah. I'll probably get a lot of hits. No, only one. Okay, mine anger is departed.
End of me.
Yeah. I got it. Yeah, it's in that study, calendar.com, called, is it Shanae Year, or is that the name of the teaching? It was in the beginning, at the end of the first, no, I think it was at the end of the second series. We're in the Stepping Stone series. That's the third time, right? Anyway, well, this is so much fun. This is cool.
Yeah. Well, thank you, everybody. I appreciate it. It was very nice. And we had other questions, too, that we started out with for like the first hour. So it's nice to do a question and answer.
I have a quick question for you guys.
Yeah.
Maybe, could you, I know that the moon is not like even mentioned until even Joseph's dream. But on Genesis 1:16, one of the things that I kind of like had to, you talk about the lesser light, and then you have the stars. Can you break that down? That has to do with the Mazzaroth, the actual constellation. I mean, how exactly?
Oh.
Can you break that down a little bit for me?
Yeah, are you referring to on the 4th day, right?
Yes.
Yeah, you'll notice that word, that third word in, the Abba did not create the sun and the moon that day. Abba created the sun and the moon in verse 1. In the beginning, Elohim created the heavens and earth. It was a done deal. And then there was 2 other creations, so that's a total of 3 creations, 3 days. On the 3rd day, the seed came forth. I mean, there's a bunch of hidden 3rd day mentions in there. That's really cool. But on this 4th day, that people say that this is the day that you begin counting the month, because he did it on the 4th day. He didn't stop the counting and start over. He went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? And so, but that word made is asar, or assigned. If you click on that, asa, it means to, in the broad sense, accomplish an event, appoint, give it its detail, its assignment, what it's supposed to do. And those ordinances are its assignment. It's doing that. But it wasn't created that day. But the word bara, or created, was in Genesis 1:1. And then in 1:21, if we scroll down a little bit, I think it's in 21. So you'll see 3 days of creation. 21. 20. There it is. And he created the fish and the birds. That's Barath. That's create something out of nothing. You know, that's create right there. And then in 27, he created man and beast. Outside of that, these are all restoration.
Yeah, I get that, Mario. He did establish the lesser and the greater light. I was talking about like where it reads you have the greater light and the lesser light, and then you have the stars, right? So what is in reference? I just want to know what is exactly in reference to. Is that the Mazzaroth, the constellation at the night, and then the stars? I mean,
oh man,
it says the lesser light.
I'm not a good one to, and I should probably say I don't know, because my take on it is that when I can't see the moon, in fact I can go out to the desert right here and see the stars are really, really nice. Where I'm at right now, I can't, but 40 minutes from here, oh, so beautiful. And when there's no moon at all, those, I can still see because of the stars. And you can't see the moon at all.
Right. So what is the reference here when it reads the lesser light to rule the night? I know that's not the stars it's talking about, because then it says and the stars. It's talking about something else completely different.
Yes.
I don't know.
Lesser light.
Yeah.
The lesser light are the stars. Here is this. Stephen says that Moses was learned in the wisdom. The wisdom is the science and learning of the Egyptians. So this guy, his name is Herodotus. He is a historian. He's well known in history. And in 440 BCE, he wrote this: with regard to human affairs, all the priests agreed that the Egyptians were the first to discover the air and divide it into 12 parts. They obtained this knowledge by studying the stars, the lesser light of Genesis 1:14 to 19, not the moon. And then he talked about they had a 30-day calendar. 30-day calendar, the same thing like Israel calendar, and added the 5 intercalary days for the 365 year. So they had a 30-day calendar. So the lesser light is not the moon or the stars, and the stars are in the constellation. Job 38. Can you bring out the constellation in their seasons? That's a question that the Creator asked Job. So yes, the stars are in the constellation, and you can have knowledge by knowing the air from the constellation too. The stars, not the moon.
So the one that rules the evening, the night, is the constellations and then the stars? Is that how that is broken down in verse 16?
Yes, in other words, the light it should be the stars. He made is not there in Hebrew. And he made also is not there in Hebrew. Put a semicolon, the stars, and he made the lesser light,
the stars,
semicolon, the stars. He also made is not in the Hebrew.
Oh, okay. Okay, because I keep reading and reading, I'm like, and, and I'm going through different versions, and that is the part that I was kind of like, well, is there 2 separate ways that he's calling, because I know that the teaching has been that those are the constellations, those are the stars, the lesser light. But I was wondering if was there a difference between the lesser light and the stars, but we're talking about the same thing altogether.
Right, the lesser light are the stars, not the moon, the stars.
Okay. I wasn't sure if like one was a constellation, one was the stars.
Well, the stars are in the constellations. That's what makes up the air too as well.
But it makes sense how it's written on there, and the way you're explaining it, because it's just basically it's telling you that the lesser light are the stars that rule the night. So that makes sense. Yeah. Thank you for that. Appreciate that. It's just translations can get me a little bit off track.
Because sometimes you cannot see the moon at night. The moon is in the conjunction phase. So how can the moon rule the night when you cannot see it and the phases? So it has to be the stars. Common sense nature.
Hey, Joe, your answers were in the the Moon study, right around part 7 or 8. I just got over it, and Charlie and Tim bring out Genesis 1:14, and then they take you to, I think it's Exodus or Jeremiah, where it talks about the sun is the greater light, and the stars are the lesser light, and the moon is for the sea. It's in that study, and if you grab that study, it'll really help you.
Which one of the moon studies is it? You said the 7th one?
I think it's 7 or 8.
Okay.
It's the moon. It's the last ones they just did. It's just outstanding. They just polished it up, man. It's excellent.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm gonna definitely look into that. I want to go through because I dissected a few teachings, but I want to just just be ready and just allow the scripture to just meditate on it. So I have an answer, for this type of questions. That does come.
There's so much to study. One of my biggest desires is to get the group together before the vernal equinox, and I don't know how we can do that on Calendar Club, and we're all so busy during the week, but to put this stuff out in the yard, to make sundials, and does the shadow disappear? Well, wait a second, aren't you supposed to watch the shadow for 6 months because it curves, and on the day of the vernal equinox, it's perfectly straight from east to west. But at the moment of the equinox, it disappears on the sundial. There's so many things to investigate, and with all of us here, you think that we could really do something this year and learn, because I'm just chomping at the bit. I know I don't know it all, and I know there's other people asking questions. And I remember last year when there was no sun out, and I was trying to figure out the calculations of the equinox. I knew it was coming, and it's so funny. I was driving dead north in my truck, and I could see the shadow underneath the vehicles, and they were perfectly underneath the vehicles at the time of the vernal equinox. There wasn't too much to the left or too much to the right. Those shadows were smack dab underneath the vehicles perfectly at the moment of the vernal equinox. 10 minutes later, the shadow started moving a little bit more to the left, and you could see more shadow on the other side of the car. There's so many ways to doing this, and I'm just looking forward to learning. That's all. What do you think?
Yes, there are so many ways. A sundial I saw was found at Qumran. They had a sundial, and I saw it on Google, and that is what they use to determine the year at Qumran for the equinox. The equinox is due east. I have a dial myself, a magnetic compass, and I use that and for the equinox, and I know exactly when it's coming. And when I point my compass, when the equinox comes, I see it due east. Due east 90 degrees with my compass. So there are many ways to find out equinox. Or if one wants to YouTube says what the equinox does, that is also more information in which one can learn on what the equinox does as well. So there are many ways, as we say, to skin the cat. So yes.
Hey Conrad. You just said that you saw one at Qumran, right? Well, I have this little kit here. It's called Antica, It comes from Israel, and what it is it's these spots, it's cluttering. You see all the different versions? And I happen to have the one that comes from Quran. I just wanted to share that because it sits here on my dresser next to my laptop. I just thought that was.
You happen to have the one that comes from what?
Qumran. It's a little replica of a piece of pottery that they had made, and you've got to like put it back together and reassemble it, just like the archaeologists do when they're digging things up.
That's fun.
But I wanted to share one more thing on the word light. The ancient Hebrew lexicon it shows the Paleo Hebrew, the pictograph, the Odeo, and it shows Beit Wa Kaf Resh, and Beit is the picture of a floor plan for a tent. Okay, so it's a dwelling. And then you've got Wa, which is a picture of a tent peg, which secures and fastens things together. And then you've got Kuf, or Kaf. I don't know which one. Kuf, I think. It's the horizon. It shows the sun on the horizon.
Correct.
And then you've got Resh, which is a picture of a head, a man's head, meaning authority or power. So you've got a dwelling connected to a horizon given by authority. That's the word boker in the ancient Hebrew language.
Boker, the
morning light. Well, it's daylight, morning, the breaking of daylight.
That is a house, right?
Beit?
Yeah.
Yeah, Beit is a picture of a tent. It's a floor plan for a house or a tent.
Or tent or whatever.
Yeah. And then you've got the wall or Vav or Ua, as some people call it.
It's a picture of authority on the horizon?
No, that's the picture of the tent peg that secures and fastens things together. And then Kuf is the picture of the horizon with the sun, and then it's either coming up or going down. And then you've got Resh, which is a picture of the head, authority. I just love the ancient Hebrew language because it's so every word is a paragraph.
Yeah.
When it's just amazing.
When you're looking at those pictures, remember when you were a kid and you would draw little stick guys on a thing and then you flip through the pages real fast and it's moving?
Yeah, my boys still do that. It's funny.
Tells the story.
Hey Mario, look what I got, man.
Huh?
Remember this, man?
I do. That sundial we had at a very special Passover that year.
You did. You gave it to me 4 years ago. Still got it, bro.
12 of us. Yeah. Counting the kids. It was 12 of us.
Well, I think Stacy was getting ready to say something. I'm not sure.
Yeah, Jesse, when you look at those the ancient Hebrew and you look at each one of those pictures, what does that say? What does Boker say through the pictures to you? That's so interesting to me.
Okay, so to me, what I see when I look at the word Boker, I see a dwelling connected to the horizon given by authority. So it would be the light dwelling over us, connected to the earth and everyone on it, given by our head.
Ooh, man, that's good stuff. I just love Boker. It's my favorite word. So
yeah,
that's good.
That goes along with Genesis, also verse 3. You know, if you think about the connection, the antitype, and all that, you see in verse 2, there's darkness and void and formless and all that. And Isaiah says that I didn't create it in secret in a dark place. I created it to be inhabited. Well, that's not very inhabitable in verse 2, right? But in verse 3, he said, let there be light. So there's that horizon, or that light that, came, that came into the darkness, that horizon. But this also, the water can refer to a dark place. Its definitions are, you have to look up the definitions. Well, I'll just tell you. It says juices and urine, and it uses the word piss, And but anyway, when a baby is in a womb, he's in a dark place. He's in waters, right? And when birth is given, also at the same time, usually urine and water, and some other things come out with a baby. But you think of, and the Ruach hovered over the womb of Mary, and the light of the world came forth, broke through. The darkness comprehended it not. But you can see the birth of Messiah coming into the scene of a dark and twisted world right there in those verse 3 verses.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think that we'll eventually go back to this writing, this form of communicating with these pictures. I don't think that this vulgar, confusing language that we know as English, or all these other twisted ideologies that stem from all these other Babylonian languages will continue. I think that the Father will return us to the pictograph, and I encourage everyone to look into it, to study it, to try to learn these words or these letters, so that way, it just brings everything into so much more clarity. Yeah. And if we see some, this is kind of my feeling on this. Sometimes when I'm in study or in prayer, and I'll share something with me, or I think I'm getting something from what I'm reading, and then have these warm, fuzzy feelings, and you feel like you're having this intimate thing, right? To me, that's intimate. That's mine. I'm not going to get online and say, "Hey, man, my wife and I last night we were, you should have been there," or no, that was intimate, right? It was intimate. It was my intimate time with him. I'm not going to, put it out there as this is it, because it's what it was for me right then. It's what I was getting, that moment of intimacy that I was having with him right then. And so I can't say that it's absolute, this is it. But a lot of folks, man, they get that inspiration and they just want to sell that as, you have told me this. Well, he might be telling me that, but I have to live with it first. And study it out.
I guard my intimate stuff. I want to guard that because it's mine. Not that I'm trying to be selfish, but just want to be careful. I was a Torah terrorist for way too long, and then I became one of those sharpshooters. I just poked at certain Messianic people that, but I repented of that. I tried not to do that. And I see Yahusha, for example. He went into pubs. He hung out with sinners. He wasn't correcting them. He was just sharing parables with them. But the backdrop itself was part of the parable. But unless they knew, the Tanakh, they would most likely miss that backdrop. But even that was included in the parable, and it wasn't for everybody to hear. It was just for those that he had given ears to hear, because there was something he was doing. It's he that brought blindness to Judah and to Israel in part for a time and a season, and it's him that will enlighten them again. And so be careful to the time. But I never saw him sitting down and talk about calendar to anybody ever. but the backdrop showed it. You know, I mean, we could see there was two different calendars. One in the Galilee and one in the in Judea, and just like today, there's that Gregorian that we use to communicate days and times, but then there's Yah's calendar too, that 30-month calendar. Yeah, we recognize that there's solstices also, but we just don't count them in the 30-month count of the restoration of all things. That doesn't mean it's not there, so.
Well, that's just like with the word night in Genesis chapter 1. He says, and the evening and the morning were a day. That doesn't mean that night wasn't in between them.
Yeah, right. I mean, but I really think that if we're really doing the work of the priesthood, if we're really doing the work of the ministry, we're reaching people where they're at, accepting where they're at, not trying to change them, like be willing to give our own testimony, and just walk out the commandments, and hopefully they'll see the Father in that and begin to question, and then we give an account, when we have the opportunity to do that. And unless we have that opportunity, we really should just kind of keep it to ourselves. I'm not saying don't share the truth. I'm not saying that. But share the truth at the right season, at the right time. Use discernment, and we need to start being aware of the things that some people are saying when we're in certain communities, and they're talking like this, and this. Put a check mark in your mind where that person's at, because they might be the one that turns you over. You're trying to give them the truth, and they turn you over. Could be a family member even. But I'm not living in fear. I'll say that. I will boldly declare his name and all that. I don't have an issue with that. But I'm saying that we need to use discernment and do everything in love. I mean, why are we telling them if we don't love them? Just so we can be right? Oh, I need to be justified. I need to be confirmed that what I think is true. And so I need to be noted. I need to be recognized. These are needs that a lot of people in the community have, right? But that's ripping Yah off. All glory and honor and esteem belongs to Him. So we're wanting what belongs to Him. It's like, whoa, wait a minute. Let me repent. I didn't know I was doing that,
Yeah.
I don't know. Am I tired? No, I'm not tired. It's early. What'd you say?
Here's the problem that we have. Those who use the moon and have 14 days with the moon for the Passover, even though you have a moon calendar using conjunction phase, crescent phase, or full moon phase, and calculating the 14th is not Kodesh or set apart. Is the ticker for with 14 days is the Passover. And that is what is being used in our scriptures, in the Hebrew scriptures. So the ticker for the 14 days, it doesn't matter where it is, it can always be the Passover for the 14th. That's as simple as it is. Let's count 14 from the ticker for Passover. Doesn't matter. You have it. It's as simple as that.
I like this word dawn. I've been looking up words in my ancient Hebrew lexicon, and the word dawn, I don't know how to pronounce it in Hebrew, but the letters are Zayin, Resh, Het. Zayin is a picture of a plow, and that goes back to what Tim was saying about how dawn is a division. It's separated, and then Resh, the picture of a head, the authority of the day is separating the light from the darkness. And then Het is a hedge of protection. And if you think about it, you're less likely to get attacked by wild animals in the daytime than you are in the nighttime. It's just, I don't know. I could put together all kinds of things with these picture letters. It's just the the way you can see these things is amazing.
Yeah, I know what you mean, and they're all good things that, you know, when we meditate on Yah, those things that are lovely and have good report and all that. There's a blessing just for doing that, just the time that we get to spend with Him, you know. But yeah, it doesn't, you know, it's not necessarily something that we want to make a doctrine out of, right? but it's good stuff.
I'm not trying to make a doctrine out of it. I just think that it's amazing the way that language can be understood so much easier, you know, and in more detail than any language that we have today.
Yeah, and that wasn't an accusing of you making a doctrine or something. I was just saying that you know, that's how a lot of these different denominations got started, as somebody got a piece of something and they went off on, you know, and now it's called Baptist, and then it's called Southern Baptist. You know, I never knew the difference between Baptist and Southern Baptist, things like that. I mean, I do now, but I didn't then.
I always thought that one just did a lot more singing than the other.
Well, no, actually, Southern Baptist means black. Yeah, it's black. It's Black Baptist, meaning it's mostly black. I don't have a problem with that. I went to a mega church that was all black, but there were 6 white people in the whole church, and my wife and I were 2 of the 6. I have no issue with that. Went there for the longest time. It was a wonderful blessing and a season in my life that I'm grateful for. Hey,
Mario, the black people taught me rhythm.
Rhythm?
I became a really cool salt and pepper team. I was born and raised around a community that was KKK. All my life, that's all I heard. Then I moved up to Southern Humboldt, and I saw my first reggae festival. Oh, boy.
So
you were filled with the Holy Ghost and fire, David.
Yeah. That was a good comment.
I'll tell you guys, if the truth be told, I would rather be in a black church any day.
What's that, Stacey?
That's just the way I feel. I'm drawn to them. I'm drawn to their zeal and passion, and there's something very special about those people.
Christians? Do you say Christians? Or the people in your...
I'm sorry, my internet probably. No, I said I would rather be in a black church or worshiping with black people because of their passion and their zeal. And they're just free, and I'm very drawn to them. So I said there's something very special about them.
Yeah, I think there's something special in, you know, every nationality and tongue, and I think there's only one race, the human race. You know, I don't, you know, I think color has a lot to do with where you were, how close you were to the equator, and a whole bunch of other, you know, things. And no, I don't believe in evolution.
Oh, so you're a speciesist, huh? Just kidding.
No, but I do, you know, think that there's just one race, and
I agree with you. I agree with you.
But I believe
that there's probably trials. You know, severe trials can sometimes bring out the best in people, and obviously sometimes can bring out the worst too. But
that's true.
It's kind of an attraction, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, you know, I think that you know, this whole narrative that happened from Genesis 1:1 all the way up to Genesis 3:15 was a type of possible restoration. But in all the narratives, whether it doesn't matter which one it is, you know, he created everything or fixed it. We broke it, or no, yeah, he created everything. We broke it. He fixed it so we can come home. You know, those 4 parts of the gospel. And anytime that we don't get all of that, he created it or fixed it, we broke it so we can come home, then we only have part of a gospel. And notice I didn't say you don't have the gospel. I just said you only have a part. And, I think that a lot of the Christians have a part that he fixed it so we can come home, but they just don't know what was broke and what was fixed and where home is. But he did, they do get the part that he fixed it so they could come home. They just don't know where that is. But that, first oath that Abba made was to Satan. And that oath was the beginning of everything. And I will put enmity between you, Satan, and the woman and the seed that she brings forth. I know a lot of translations say, and between her seed. Women don't have seed. But the seed that would come from the woman, okay, we know who that is. Not many seeds, but one particular seed that would come forth. And that's where the promise of another restoration process began, right there. And then it was with, Abraham and his seed, and then we go through. So if we don't get a hold of the two seed idea throughout all scriptures, about the seed of Cain, and or Satan, however you want to, call it out, and the seed of
Adam.
Well, yeah, his was a fallen seed, and they bore children in the image of fallen men. But one of those seed lines was good, and one of those seed lines was not so good. And but the seed line of I can't think of his name right now.
Abel?
No.
Seth?
No.
Oh, not Seth. Is it Seth?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah.
It's too tired. I'm too tired. It's after 11 o'clock here. I've been up since 5:50 this morning, so.
Okay. Well, yeah, you guys want to, Lisa, you're starting to look tired now, too.
Yeah, I've been up since 5. It's 11:30 here.
Oh,
I'm with you, Jesse. I'm like, my bedtime's usually 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock.
Oh, yeah. I hear you.
This is Fridays are always rough for me.
Yeah, so,
but they're a rough blessing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for, on Shabbat, between Shabbat Fellowship and Torah to the Tribes teaching at 3, there's supposed to be a repeat of Friday night study. Since there wasn't a study, I mean, we're still going to try to get off of Shabbat Fellowship early enough to where if people just want to hang out, they can. You're always welcome to come to the Shabbat Fellowship too, and hang out there. Last week we did a pretty good job at ending on time, but then people in the Shabbat Fellowship, after we ended the meeting, they click on the same link and open the Shabbat Fellowship meeting up again. So the covenant calendar link was, it said there's already a meeting. Yeah, we just want to make sure that those that are on the Shabbat Fellowship don't use the same link that you use for Shabbat Fellowship if you're going to come on tomorrow. But there's not going to be a repeat. It'll just kind of be like this, just open conversation, unless you want to repeat, Lisa, those questions that are on Facebook. We use that time in between time for us, after Shabbat Fellowship. That's when we put on our praise music, and we take out our tambourines there and sticks, and put on praise and worship music that has his name in it, and we raise that up and dance across, in our living room, and just sing, and then we take a break from that and eat. Sometimes we eat first, and then we dance it off. Sometimes we dance first, and then we eat. But anyway, that's what we do in between. So I probably won't be.
Can I say one more thing real quick? Eric Berry. I see that you said that you're close to Knoxville.
Yes, I am.
I actually know somebody else that lives really close to you. He lives over by Knoxville, Tennessee. If you'd like, maybe next Friday he'll be on here, and you guys might be able to actually hook up and study out together.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah, and it might not be a bad idea for us to follow the lead. I keep forgetting. But I see that Stacy and Mimi and Damon and Jose and Jesse all put where they live after their name. We should all maybe do that. It might be easier to find somebody and say, hey, where in Tennessee do you live? You know?
I live in Sevierville, Tennessee.
Sevierville.
That's 20 miles east of Knoxville.
That's not far at all, is it?
Yeah, I think my buddy lives in I can't remember the name of the town he lives in, but he lives just a little north of Knoxville.
Oh,
so,
okay, yeah.
So you may actually be within, like, you know.
He's probably in Johnson City or someplace like that.
Maybe he's down the street.
You never know. He might be. I'll have to get a hold of him.
Or if he's close to Kentucky, the Kentucky border or something.
No, he's not. He's not that far from Knoxville.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm only an hour away from Asheville, North Carolina, and about an hour and a half away from Spartan, the Spartan-Greenville area in South Carolina.
Cool. Very good. Very good. Great job. Well, I'm going to go ahead and clock out if that's okay. If you guys want to stay.
You want to do a prayer before? Is that okay? Want to bless you with a prayer?
Yeah, if Abba put that on your heart, let's.
He did. He did. Abba, Father, we love you. We appreciate all you have done to this wonderful group. Bring justice into our lives. Bring your righteousness into our lives. Bring your love and kindness, so we may be able to walk in the direction that you want us to walk, in your footsteps, oh Abba Father. Thank you for allowing us to study this together and allow your words to resonate in our minds and our hearts, and able to change our hearts, change our minds, so we can open up new avenues and open up new ways to understand the covenant calendar and understand where we need to be, so we can bring others into the truth, which is your Son. And there are so many ways we can do that. And I know that knowing your days and times and your seasons is a good way to do it, oh Father, for you had established those for us to understand and to learn. And may your words from Genesis to Revelation be in our hearts and our minds, transforming us every single day. And allow the script to be edified by it and to be blessed by it, so we can bless others as you have blessed us. Thank you, Abba Father, for everything you have done. We worship you. We exalt your name above all names. And your Son, Yahushua HaMashiach, who is our high priest. There's no one higher than he is. He lives in our hearts, he lives in our minds, and he guides us and directs us to you, Abba Father, and to others, so we may love them. Thank you, and all in Yahushua's name. Amen.
Amen.
This was a great night, and I just want you guys to know I've really missed you guys. I haven't been on here in several weeks. My wife took a turn to the worst when she got cancer, and she died just a few days ago. And so this is the first chance I've gotten to get back on. So
I'm sorry, Eric.
I'm so sorry.
Can we pray?
Yeah, because I need to be in agreement that the Ruach would lead and guide what I'm going to be doing next, where I'm going to go. I want to be just led by him. Where am I going to go? Where am I going to live? Do I stay here? Do I wander somewhere else? So I just wanted you guys to know that, because Charlene and I've been staying in contact with Charlene and Tim, but they've been praying for me and stuff. But it's been several weeks since I've been on here with you guys.
Wonderful. I'm glad that you're here, and Abba Father, we just thank you and praise you for our brother Eric, and Father, we ask that you would bless him with fond memories of all the good times, experiences that he got to share with his wife, and that none of those visions of the cancer experience would would permeate in his mind, but that he would just focus and be thankful for the time that he was able to share with his wife. And Father, most of all, we want to thank you for the new season that you're bringing him into in his life, a new status, perhaps, a new place, perhaps. But Father, may it be clear in his ears what it is that you are wanting him to do in these days. Direct him, Father, according to your word, according to your will. I give him confirmations and Father, just bless him. We ask that you put a hedge of protection around about him during this season. We know that the enemy and spirits of depression and familiar spirits and those sort of things lurk about. But Father, we just speak against those principalities, that they have no authority to approach Eric, even to approach him. And Father, we thank you for the authority that you've given to us. We thank you for that we can speak to principalities. We thank you that it's you that has called Eric. It's you that has brought him this far. It's you that will take him the rest of the way. We give you all the honor and the glory for what you've done and for what you're doing and for what you will do.
Amen. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Bless you, Eric.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
All right.
Thank you. All right.
We love you, brother, and you're not alone.
Thank you. You're my family. You've always been. So,
Praise
thank you so much.
You'll be in my prayers too, Eric.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Really do.
Yes, I remember your name in prayer, Eric Berry. All right.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I pray that you all have a shalom Shabbat tomorrow.
I am. I get to spend a few hours with Tim in the morning. He always brings me up.
Praise Yahweh.
Hallelujah.
And you're more than welcome to visit the Shabbat Fellowship also, or connect with that.
Okay.
Are you subscribed to that, Eric?
Yes, I am.
Yeah. I thought I saw you in there before.
Yeah, I was there for 2 weeks, and then I had to go to Tulsa, Oklahoma to be with her. Yeah.
Hey, well, if you're going to be on there tomorrow, I'll message the brother that lives over by you and let him know.
Yeah.
His name's Michael Hall.
Okay.
He's recently started watching these or joining these meetings with us. He's not on here tonight, but I'll tell him that there's a local brother that lives nearby, because he's been wanting fellowship with somebody that's in agreement with this calendar. And it's so difficult to find anyone.
Oh, you're not telling me anything new. I've been trying. You don't know how bad I've been trying. There's a lot of fellowships, but they're not the kind of fellowship I want to be a part of.
Yeah, we're trying something fresh and new in fellowship. We're using role playing as a tool to be strategic, like special ops, as we get trained in the priesthood and how we navigate through this world, and how to approach people. Some people already have their role and their spot. I volunteer myself. If there's anybody that has a role that is either a knock at the door or a doorbell, I'm the doorbell. Okay.
Okay. Very good.
And then they role play, and it could be both. You could take a positive side, there's no right or wrong, right? So a person could choose to act out a difficult individual. They're being difficult. Or they can be loving, soft, spoken person. So, but it's just role playing for like a training exercise. I think it's going to be fun. We did a very lighthearted one the other day. Tamara asked questions and people spoke about which answer they picked. But this is going to be more of a role play, like an impromptu acting. So it is kind of acting. It's not just we want to be led by the Ruach, but it's your acting skills. So that should be fun. It'll be a different kind of day tomorrow.
Yeah.
Anyway. Love you, everybody. Love you guys.
Thank you. Love you guys. Thank you.
Blessings. Shabbat blessings coming up.
Yes, Shabbat blessings.
Shabbat. Bye.
Bye.
Jose, you
Sure.
from Orlando?
I am. Yes.
It's coming from Orlando too.
Oh, really?
Yes.
You're from Orlando? We got to get together.
Yes, from Orlando.
Oh, nice, nice. You know, I keep, this group keeps surprising me. I run into like at least a handful of people through this group that actually live close to Orlando or in Orlando. So it's been a blessing.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Well, I'll put my number on there. Give me a text.
Okay.
All right. And whoever wants to keep my number, please. Whenever you want, call me.
All right. I'll be going down to Orlando pretty soon.
Yeah. Hit me up and we'll get together.
Sounds
You got a
good.
place to stay?
No, not yet.
All right. Well, call me because I have an extra room here.
Oh, great.
All right.
That's great. Thank you.
When are you coming down?
It's probably going to be, I have to liquidate the retail stores that my wife ran, that we owned. And so it'll be after February, like closer to March.
Okay. Yeah. Call me, and yeah, we'll arrange it for sure.
Thank you.
Be nice to spend time with brethren.
All right. Sounds great.
All right. Okay. Awesome.
See you later.
Well, shalom. I'm going to get your number, Conrad, so really quick.
Yes, it's on the chat.
Got it.
It's good to see you. It's good to see you, Joe. And Conrad, I'm really looking forward to getting that information on the manna falling on the Sabbath, and it was the Day of Atonement. I got to see that.
Yes, the manna.
I got to see.
You have to see that.
That's going to be an interesting one.
Yes.
Looking forward to digging into that one because
Yes,
atonement definitely going on the chopping block. We don't have it yet. Well, that's just my opinion, and I'm sticking to it.
You don't have it yet, right?
Guys.
I got yours, Eric.
Right.
Thank you. All right.
Where's Dan in California?
That's in California.
Yeah, where?
I'm in Northern California. I'm in Humboldt County. You ever heard of Humboldt?
Oh yeah, I lived in Vallejo, and I grew up in Fresno, California.
I was born and raised in Bakersfield.
Oh my gosh!
I was born and raised there. My grandfather was a second state fire marshal in the state of California.
Okay.
I born and raised there.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah,
San Joaquin River Basin.
Yeah, I got to go out and visit my parents in Selma. So.
All right. Well, maybe we can hook up.
Okay.
That'd be cool.
All righty. We'll see you later.
Yeah,
you guys have a good one.
All right, brethren. Shalom.
Shalom.
All right.
Looking up to the dome, a.k.a. his throne.
You mean Damon, I thought your name was Danon, okay. Danon, okay.
Yes, I'm still here.
You're still here? What do you say about Pentecost?
I don't think we have it down yet. I don't think we have it. I think we've got the actual day. I think we have the actual day of Pentecost, but what did they do? What was the object lesson that they did for how many days? They got together and they waited 10 days. And what did they do? They confessed their sins one to another. We're not doing that yet. And we're not afflicting our souls so that the enemy won't come in and take us out. We got a lot more on the plate. Back in the 1800s, there was a group of people that just discovered the seventh-day Sabbath. We just came out of the Dark Ages, man. Martin Luther nailed a census up on the wall in 1490-something about the Pope being Antichrist, and Martin Luther did not know the truth of the seventh-day Sabbath. The truth of the seventh-day Sabbath came back in the 1800s through the Methodists, which became the Seventh-day Adventists. Well, back in the 1800s, they knew that they had all the light concerning the seventh-day Sabbath, but it was only the glimmerings of the Sabbath more fully. Well, what the heck is the Sabbath more fully? It's the feast days. It's the divine appointments of Yahweh. And we're living in the day of those divine appointments. Now, when you follow, you will see that we are the repairers of the breach in Malachi. And all through the scriptures it says to go back to the old paths. Well, 3 years ago, we did not have first fruits down. We didn't have it down. Now we got it down. Every several years, it seems more light comes in to proper keeping the commandments of Yahweh. Atonement and Pentecost are the last two. We don't have atonement, and we do not have Pentecost. We got the days down. We know the calendar count, but as far as observing, we're still learning. You can't sweep atonement underneath the rug. You can't sweep it underneath the rug, man. It's in Leviticus 23 for a reason. We're not rightly dividing the Word of God. To say it was done away with because of the book of the law, that's too weak. It's not flying. Because the word judgment is mentioned more times in the scriptures than any other word practically known to man. You know, especially when you do a word search on afflicting your soul, it's not a celebration. Who starts a party at the ninth day at even? If I was going to start a party, it would be in the morning all day long through the whole 24-hour cycle. Atonement is huge. It's huge, dude. It's almost like a little checklist that you do right at the end of your cycle. You know, it's really remarkable because in the last days, when we're keeping atonement, we're going to be popping our heads out of the caves knowing that we got 4 more days till Yahuwah comes back. And that's the celebration. And we're still looking for souls to save. There's still 4 more days for people to come in and get your coon dog in the ark because we're going through here. So I believe atonement is really, I think even Matthew Nolan agrees with me. So it's going to be interesting to watch Matthew next year talk on atonement. I'm kind of excited to see what he's going to do with it. But, you know, we're still...
This year he can talk about it?
Huh?
Well, if you read, of course, Jeremiah 31 and 31, 34, it says, the time is coming.
I have to see it in the calendar. You said that the manna marked the Day of Atonement. I've got to see that in calendar. I have to see it in calendar language. I have to, because why would Yahweh break something that he said? When you look up the word afflict, in its context, it's fasting. It is fasting. There's no celebration involved here. This is straight up, get down, do an inventory on yourself. Judgment's coming. You got one little sin, you better get rid of it, because you're not going to be written in the Lamb's Book of Life at the end of the Day of Atonement, on the 10th day at even. I mean,
I send Mario. I send Mario the history of the Day of Atonement. He has a copy of it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing it. I do, but in my heart, I've got to see it in calendar language. I got to see it. I have to see it because I know that we're the repairers of the breach, and atonement is not a celebration. Not even close. The celebration is going back to the New Jerusalem in our 8 days. Those 8 days of the Feast of Tabernacles, that's the celebration. Why would you want to celebrate the atonement? Christ hasn't even come back yet. So I got a lot of questions still, and my teachers that run Calendar Club agree with me. So this thing with atonement, me and Mario, I've been bumping heads with Mario on atonement for 4 years. And Nolan. I believe that Nolan is definitely inspired and anointed. He's from the swamp just like we are. About 90% of his sermons I agree with. The other 10%, he's bumped his head. That's just my opinion. The dude's not perfect. He's an outstanding teacher. Outstanding, and I love him. And I've spent the night in his house 3 or 4 times, and I go to the feasts, and he's had me speak at his feasts. So I do care about Matthew Nolan. I think he's top notch. I mean, that man is something else, but he's not perfect. There you go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wrote the article, and I sent it to Mario about the history of the Day of Atonement. And I'm a historian, by the way, and I am a scriptural research analyst. I've studied this calendar for many, many years, and I can tell you the history of the Day of Atonement came to be and why it came to be. And I could tell you through the Hebrew scriptures and the Hebrews itself what Shaul was talking about. So
cool.
If you get that article and you get the history, then you may able to get an understanding of it much more better.
You know what? I gotta tell you, I'm ready, and if it's truth, I'll see it. I will. I've been through the ringer, man. I mean, I have been through the ringer from the very moment, excepting when a day began. I fought Yahweh tooth and nail for 2.5 years. He made me wake up every morning at Sabbath at dawn, and then he took me 24 hours and woke me up every morning at dawn on Sunday for 2.5 years. 2.5 years. I still didn't get it.
Definitely. The Feast of Tabernacles would be observed in the Messianic kingdom under the Melchizedek priesthood of Yeshua HaMashiach. Definitely, for sure. That is not going to be obsolete. Those 8 days of the Feast of Tabernacles, a time of celebration in the Messianic kingdom. The Day of Atonement would not be observed, it can't be observed under the present Melchizedek priesthood. It just cannot be. He cannot have it under the Melchizedek because it came under Aaron.
I'm totally with you. It smells good, looks good. It smells good, looks good. I just got to see it. And I got to use the same Bible study tools we use in Calendar Club. And there's 20 methods of studying the Bible. So I am open and I'm excited. That's why I want a copy of it. Because if I'm wrong, I got to tell you, I'll be the first one to admit it. I'll be the first one. I mean, seriously, I believed in the moon. I was with Charlene Forbes the whole time. She was figuring out what this moon was all about. For 2.5 years, I was on the phone with her 5 times a day. So I'm basically ready. If it's truth, bring it on, man. So I'm just like, I just want you to know that I really want to see this.
Let me ask you a question. If the manna is the key. If the manna fell on a Friday? Remember, the manna didn't fall on the Sabbath. If the manna fell on a Friday, do you think that the people fasted because there was no work to be done for the Day of Atonement? No manner of work.
What I have to tell you is, I have to see it in calendar. I have studied the 42 campsites to great length, okay? And I know that following Moses up the mountain, you've got the elegant calendar. It's all a part of it. So on the 3rd month of that first year, they received the law of God on the day of Pentecost. Well, guess what? If the manna fell on the Day of Atonement, it's in the Bible. It'll be in the Bible, and it'll be under calendar language, and we'll find it. And it hasn't been found yet. And I'm getting on the phone right now and calling Charlene and asking her about this, because this is important to me. It's very important to me. And that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to dig this stuff up and take a serious look at it. So thank you so much for everything that you're contributing to us, and we'll take a look at it.
Right.
You know, and just because Mario teaches it one way doesn't mean I live it that way.
Right.
I mean,
yeah.
I love Mario, but I don't agree with everything he says.
Right. So yeah, check it out. If the manna came on a Friday, if the Day of Atonement came on a Friday, did the manna fell on that Friday? Since
that's 4 months.
To be done.
That's 4 months past Pentecost when they were at the Mount. So in those 4 months, there has to be calendar language. Blow the trumpet on the new month, the 7th month. The 7th month, which brings you into quite a large count as far as numbers. You're pretty close to 7th month. I mean, you're like in 200 days. I mean, you're going quite along. And then, if it fell on a Friday, was that the 9th day at even? I mean, was the 9th day at even the day before? I mean, it's got to be in calendar language, dude. Everything else is in calendar language. Everything is in calendar language when it comes to the feasts. So atonement's got to be in calendar language, man.
Yes, but the 7th-day Shabbat, no manna fell. That's correct.
So we'll figure it out when we get there. I mean, laying down the timeline from the very moment they left Egypt on a Tuesday. You got 3 days. They're crossing the Gulf of Aqaba. No wonder you wanted 3 days in the wilderness. He told Pharaoh 8 times, give us 3 days to go into the wilderness so we can sacrifice and hold a feast to Yahweh. Little did Pharaoh know that in that 3 days they were going to be crossing the Gulf of Aqaba, and it was going to be the end of his life and his army. It's all in calendar. It's all there. Then you've got them going through the wilderness, crossing the Red Sea, hanging out at Mount Sinai for a whole year. They hung out at Mount Sinai for a whole year. So in that year, we've got them receiving the law of God on the day of Pentecost. And the count, you got 3 days. Don't come near your wives. Don't let the cattle come near the mountain. And they received the law of God on the day of Pentecost. What day was that? Tomorrow after the Sabbath. And then they didn't have the count of the Omer then, but it would have been the count of the Omer. So we follow 50 days. No, wait a second. I'm going way ahead of myself here. Everything that we have discovered is in the Bible under calendar language. If the Day of Atonement fell on a Sabbath, on the very first day that the manna fell, it'll be there. It'll be there in calendar language. There's too many witnesses. So there you go, my friend. And I could be wrong.
I have to talk so I could know where you're coming from. That's how I do it. I listen a lot. I'm a teacher too myself.
Yeah, if the manna fell on the Day of Atonement, on the Sabbath, then you're going to have to show it with calendar language, just like Joshua going into the land.
No, the manna never fell on a 7-day Shabbat. The manna did not. There was no manna. Manna fell on the Friday before the 7-day Shabbat.
Okay, thank you for correcting me.
So
you're right.
There were double portion of manna fell on Friday for the 7-day Shabbat. No manna fell on a Saturday.
That's right. So that means if Sabbath was the Day of Atonement, They didn't eat their manna. I have no clue, dude. All I know is it's got to be in calendar language.
I understand. So in other words, then, since CCC says that the Day of Atonement can float on any day of the week, CCC says the Day of Atonement can come on a Monday, the Day of Atonement can come on a Tuesday, the Day of Atonement can come on a Wednesday, the Day of Atonement can come on a Friday. Well, if the Day of Atonement came on a Friday, when they were 40 years in the wilderness, did the manna fell on that Friday? Otherwise, you have 2 days without no food.
You know, I got to tell you, there's just so much to learn, and I'm excited. And I'm going to tell you, I could be wrong, and you could be right. We'll know in the end. That's what's so beautiful about this. This is what's so beautiful about the journey, man.
That's right. So if manna, we
will know.
So my question is, did manna fell on that Friday? Because if that manna fell on a Friday, that means they could cook it and bake it, and it says no work to be done on the Day of Atonement. So that means it's 2 days they will have without no food. They will have no food to eat on Friday, and they have no food to eat on Saturday. Well, if the manna fell on...
Yeah, I believe that the atonement doctrine is going to eventually be brought up on Calendar Club. I really do. It's just that there's so many that have to be taught.
Well, I'm hearing that Matthew Nolan has to make a decision whether or not the Day of Atonement you're gonna flick your beans or just humble yourself. That is coming up, I heard.
But you know, all I know is the Day of Atonement's a 76-76. It's as high as the seventh day Sabbath. It's a 76-76. It's not a 76-77, which is a holy convocation, which you are not supposed to go and work. There's people in the camp that go and work on the Day of Trumpets. That's wrong. But they still go and work on the Day of Trumpets. Well, they're just going to have to dig a little more into the scriptures, because it says no servile work on a 76 or 76-77, which is unleavened bread, the Sabbath on the, you know what I'm saying? The holy convocations, which is all
77, right? 76-77, right? Mm-hmm.
And when you look up the word celebrate, it's not celebrating, man. It's afflicting your soul. It's getting down and getting dirty. It's really doing an investigation on yourself. Do a word search on the word celebrate in the Hebrew. It's not a celebration. See, this is what blows me out of the water. We use these tools of study, but yet with some doctrines, we go, it's like the speaking in tongues doctrine, okay? If we use the proper tools that we use in Calendar Club to prove the speaking in tongues doctrine, it would be on the board. But nobody wants to do it that way because everybody wants to speak in tongues, and it's their pet peeve. Well, I'm sorry, but the scripture makes it clear what speaking in tongues really is. But you've got people running around speaking in tongues. And it's like, okay, I'm powerless over this one, man. This is a Babylonian teaching that's got going on the chopping block. Just like music, speaking in tongues is next. Day of Atonement and Pentecost are going on the chopping block. We don't know them yet. There's too much division in the camp. So we need to be humble, love one another, and get out our Bibles and learn. And don't get upset if we're wrong. And I got to tell you, I've had so many paradigm shifts in the past 10 years. Dude, if you're right, praise Yahweh. I will accept it, and I'll accept it. You'll be proud of me. There won't be any lift for me. I mean, that's where I'm at.
To us.
So let's have a word of prayer.
Your Father will meet you. Yes.
Yeah,
Father can meet you at your level.
let's have a word of prayer, okay?
Right, that's the prayer. Sure.
Yeah, Father in
Heavenly
heaven, I just,
Father. Go ahead, Dimmer.
no, go ahead.
Father in heaven, I do pray. This calendar is bigger than us. We came, it belongs to you. It is yours. It does not belong to us. It is yours. We're going to come, see it, read it, and we're going to die, leave it, and it's still yours. It does not belong to us. So I'm asking you to open our understanding to understand this much more better than how we understand it. Open up the minds of the instructors, Timothy, Asterford, and Charlene Foch. Jacob James says, not many of us should be teachers, for we who are teachers shall receive the greater judgment. Give them understanding. Give us understanding. Help us to be humble. Help us, dear Father, to be learners. We are disciples. Disciples are learners. The Messiah came and taught disciples, and they had to learn. And after the Master, open up my mind, open up their non-mind to understand this much better than how we understand it, and clear away the deception, and we do not allow Hasatan to start schisms and divisions in the body of Hamashiach, your son who died for us, because after all, we are going to be with you, and we are not perfect yet, and the time is coming when you shall make a covenant, a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah. It will not be like the covenant you made, that is the book of the covenant that you make with their forefathers when they came out of Egypt, which covenant they broke, even though I was a husband to them. This is the covenant I would make with the house of Israel after those days. I will put my laws into their hearts and write them on their minds. And I will be their Elohim, and they will be my people. No longer will they teach his neighbor or his brother, saying, no, no way, for they shall know me from the least of them to the greatest. And I will forgive their lawless acts and their wickedness and their sins. I will remember no more. I'm looking forward to that day, for that day to come. In the meantime, we learn, we grow, we overcome, and we thank you in Yeshua's name for this promise that you will fulfill.
Yes, Father, and I'm in agreement with my brother. I just pray, Heavenly Father, that you would please open up these mysteries to us. You've shown us that we are definitely Lazarus coming forth. You've emancipated us and bought us. You've brought us so much light in the past 10 years, Father. We just know that the outpouring of the Holy Spirit is happening right now in little measures. It's nothing like the final outpouring that's going to happen. But in this process, Father, that we're repairing the breach, because the breach has been definitely broken. And it was just several hundred years ago that we were all in the dark ages. So we're coming out of this darkness into this light, and so much truth has been expanded. Father, it was just a couple of years ago that we didn't have the count of the Omer, the placement of the 7 full complete weeks, and the day of Pentecost. And now, Father, atonement's up for questioning, and we need to look at Pentecost. So I pray that you would open up our hearts and our minds as we study, and that we would come to you in love, asking and searching, because we want to know the time of our wedding. We want to know these things.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much to study, Abba.
Mm-hmm.
There's not enough time in a day.
Mm-hmm.
I just pray that you make time for us to figure these things out. Please send us your spirit and help us.
Mm-hmm.
I pray these things in your mighty name. Amen.
Yes, we like to know wedding date. When is our wedding date? Bride always know her wedding date.
Yeah, man. For sure, baby. All right. Well, hey, Yahweh
Bride
bless
always
you.
know her wedding date. You too. All right.
Yahweh bless you, sir.
Okay, you too, Dalen. Bye.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for praying with me. I'll talk to you later.
Hello? You there? Okay, take care. You too. All right.